Sin in Space by Cyril Judd. An expose of the Scarlet Planet. Chapter 1. Jim Candro couldn't pace the corridors because there weren't any. The colony's hospital was simply an extra room built onto the doctor's ran Earth house. They still called it Earth, though it was the rust-reddened soil of Mars. The narrow space between bed and wall cramped his restless legs. The monotonous motion wearied his arm. But Jim stayed on, doggedly determined to see the thing through, rubbing his wife's back and whispering reassurances, as much to himself as to her. "Why don't you let me take over for a while?" the doctor suggested. Jim's usefulness was over now, and the man was only communicating his own panic to his wife. "Doc!" The man's voice was rough with anxiety, but he held back the frantic questions. "Please, Tony," he said simply. "I'd rather stick around." He fixed a smile to his face as he bent over Polly again. Anna came in before Tony had quite decided to call her. It was a talent she seemed to have, one of the reasons why he had chosen her for his assistant. "I think Jim needs a cup of coffee," he told her firmly. Candra straightened up awkwardly. "All right, Doc." He was trying hard to be matter-of-fact. "You call me if anything... when there's news?" "Of course he will." Anna's quick assurance forestalled Tony's exasperated retort. She put her hand on Candra's arm and smiled down at the woman on the bed. "Not much longer now, Polly," she said with quiet certainty. "Come on, Jin." As the door closed behind them, Tony turned to his patient and surprised a brief smile on her lips. "You mustn't mind," she explained almost apologetically. "He's so worried." She had no breath for more. She twisted suddenly on the narrow bed and clutched at the air till Tony gave her his hand to squeeze on. Every other form of physical labor, he reflected unhappily, was made easier by the light gravity of Mars, but the labor of childbirth was eternally the same. And there was nothing he could do right now, except to offer her the reassurance of his presence. He stood and waited, gooseflesh cascading from the nape of his neck down his spine as she ground her teeth against the pane. When it was gone and she released his hand, he turned to the sterilizer for a fresh glove. One more examination, he decided. Something should be happening by now. He heard her deep inhalation behind him. "Anna's so nice," she sighed. He heard the difference before he turned and saw it. Polly was lying back, completely relaxed, making the most of the time before the pain returned. "Yes, she is," Tony said. He dropped the glove on the table. Another examination wasn't going to do any good, for her or for him. "Quit the damn fiddling," he told himself. "Sit and wait. You let that poor son of a gun get you down. If she can wait, you can too. Be the doctor you would have been in Pittsburgh or Springfield, any Springfield on Earth. So you're on Mars. So what? Sit and wait." He got a chair and put it next to the high bed, dropped his hand casually on the sheet where Polly could see it, where she could grab it again if she wanted to. He leaned back and forced himself, muscle by unwilling muscle, to relax. On the other side of the door, Jim raised his coffee cup for the fourth time to his lips, and for the fourth time put it down again untasted. "What do you think, Anna?" he burst out. "How does it look to you? You'd know if there was anything... wrong." "It looks all right to me," she said again gently. "Looks like a normal delivery." "But she started at 6 o'clock this morning. Why should it take so long?" "Sometimes it does. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's hard work, that's all. It takes time." It was useless to tell him not to worry. She went over to the work counter that ran the length of the rectangular room. "I don't think it'll be much longer now, Jim. Do you want to try and get some sleep while you wait? Or, if you're going to stay up, could you give me a hand here?" She pulled out materials quickly. "Sure." He got up, still holding the cup as though he didn't even know it was in his hand. "I mean, I'll be glad to help." He let Anna relieve him of the cup and accepted an alky torch, never wondering why she should choose to start a job at midnight. "Look," he said desperately, "you would tell me, wouldn't you, if it wasn't going to be right? Tony wouldn't want to keep me from knowing, would he? She never got this far before, you know." "Believe me, Jim, if there were anything wrong, Tony would tell you, and I don't know any more than you do." "You were in there longer than I was. Here, hold the flame down this way, will you?" For just a minute, he turned his attention to the work. But why wouldn't he tell me anything? Because there was nothing to tell, I imagine. Even Anna's patience could wear thin. Deftly, she removed the torch from his hand before the downturned flame could do any damage. Kendra wanted to yell, "You don't know. None of you know. 12 years we've been married, and a man and a woman want kids, and none of you know how we want kids, and all she does is get so sick you think she's dying, and we never get this far, and you just don't know." He saw in Anna's eyes that he didn't have to say it, but she did understand. Her arms went out a little, and the big, raw-boned man flopped on his knees before the plain little woman, and sobbed with his head awkwardly pillowed against her. At 3:37 a.m., Dr. Tony Hellman adjusted a tiny oxygen mask over the red button nose of a newborn infant, wiped it, and wrapped it, and returned his attention to the mother. He reached for the buzzer that would summon Anna from the other room to help, but he didn't push it. Kendra was sure to come storming in with her, and Polly was too wakeful and excited as it was. Then, too, there was a certain perverse satisfaction in doing the whole job himself, even the messy wiping up operations that would be left to a student nurse back on Earth. When he had finished, he overrode Polly's plan to stay awake and stare at her baby. He gave her a stiff shot of sedative to make certain, then decided to give her an oxen pill for the next day as well, hoping she would sleep through till late morning. Only since the development of the magic pink pellets containing the so-called oxygen enzyme had it been possible for most human beings to live a normal life on Mars. Before that, anyone who did not have the rare good luck to possess naturally Mars-worthy lungs lived permanently in an oxygen mask. Now, masks were needed only for babies too small to tolerate the pill. The miracle enzyme made the air of Mars as useful to human lungs as the native atmosphere of Earth, always provided the human in question took his pill religiously every day. Let 30 hours go by without renewing the treatment, and he would be dying, within minutes, of anoxemia. Tony took a last look at the baby, made sure the tiny mask was properly adjusted, and checked the oxy tank for proper flow. Polly was already half asleep. He went quietly past her bed and opened the door into his living room. "Shh!" Anna turned from her workbench, her face warm and cheerful. She pointed to the bunk where Jim, fully dressed in tunic and sand boots, lay fast asleep. "Everything all right?" Tony nodded. "Damn sight better than I expected. After the glaring light of the hospital room, the quiet dark in here was good." More than that, Anna's untroubled presence served to dissolve all the nervous tension of hours before. Suddenly too fatigued even to talk, he finished briefly. "Boy, 5 pounds 2 ounces, earth weight. Good color. Strong, too." "Good." Anna returned her attention to the work. "I'll finish this up, then go sit with her. I'll call you if she needs anything." "What about him?" Anna glanced at Jim's sprawled figure. "He'll be all right." She smiled. "He can wait a few hours to meet his son." For just a moment more, the doctor stood there, watching her, fascinated as always by her delicate art. A puff on the tube, a twist as it reddened in the flame, a spin against an iron tool, another puff. All of it casual, seemingly random. And then, somehow, there was a finished piece of work. Part of the intricate glass tubing always needed in the lab. A fragile-looking piece of stemware for some new colonist's household. A precise hypodermic syringe for himself. He watched till his weary eyes refused the bright spot of light where the pale flame washed over the glowing glass. Then he stumbled into the adjoining bedroom and slept.